that old Jewish tune. Ya la, ya la, ya la, 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 ya la, ya la, 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 ya la, ya la, ya la, ya la, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. A happy secular New Year. We have a few of us here in our Rudin Chapel and many joining us virtually. We're so glad to be together. Togetherness will take it in whatever form we can find it. So maybe you knew that in the Jewish calendar, we don't just have one New Year. We have the one we know about in the fall, right? Beginning of the month of Tishrei. Then we have one that's coming up. What's the one coming up in 2 weeks? Tu B'Shvat, the New Year of the Trees. You can celebrate it with a Tu B'Shvat Havdalah on the 14th, or the 15th, sorry. We also have the first, yes? Yes, I know, yes. So we can think of her for Kaddish. So we have the beginning of the new year. In the fall, we have the New Year of the Trees. We have the first of Nisan, the springtime New Year that leads us into Pesach. And then we have 1/4 New Year, which is the beginning of Elul, the New Year for tithing cattle. And of course, we can also add in our New Year celebrations of the Gregorian calendar. If we were in Israel, this day is called Yom Sylvester. So, an interesting history there. So as we celebrate new beginnings, even in some trying times, it's my joy to call up Rosalie Goodman, Rosalie and Ray, celebrating this week 62 years of marriage. They're going to be lighting the candles in their own home and kindling lights also in celebration of a 56th anniversary this week. The Aaronsons will come and do that honor right here in our Rudin Sanctuary. So come on up and we'll let Rosalie's voice lead.
We're lighting it early.
Page 2.
We'll get the matches. You have to get the matches. A minor thing. He said it's going to be later. Okay, I'll wait for my husband. Just one moment. Sorry.
See, this is why this marriage has lasted so long. She's waiting for her husband. Exactly. You tell us when you're ready, and we'll do it. We'll do it together.
Okay, absolutely. All right, you can light, I'll sing with you.
So we first light, and then we bless.
Okay, you light, sweetheart. These are the candlesticks I got when I got B'nai Mitzvah from you guys. Candlesticks.
It's not going out.
Okay. Ready? Wait, come back. Rabbi?
Yes.
These are the candlesticks that I got when I got B'nai Mitzvah with you.
Wow.
I have my grandmother's, but I want to use yours.
I love that.
Okay. Whenever.
Amen. Amen. Go ahead and light Goodman's if you haven't already and say the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu b'ritzatzon v'tzivanu l'chalach nei shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who hallows us with matzah and commandments us to kindle the wonderful lights of Shabbat.
Amen. Thank
Amen.
you so much. Celebrating 62 years and 56 years with the Aaronsons here. That's a lot of years of beautiful partnership. Lots and lots of light to share. Thank you. Okay, we will continue on page 13. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. The beautiful spiritual practice of Shabbat is to kindle some light and see things in a new light. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai Baruchu Shemo Basru Miyom Leyom Yeshuato. Sapru Hagoyim Kevodo Bechol Ha'amim Niflotav. Ki Gadol Adonai Umeulal Meod Nohorahu Al Kol Elohim Yaela Ela Ki Kol Elohim Ha'amim Elilim V'Adonai Shamayim Asa Hod V'Hadar Lefanav Oz V'Tiferet V'Mikdasho Yala 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 Taking a cleansing breath. Think so much about breathing these days, right? The blessing it is, how we have to be so careful. 16, Zamru Ladonai Bechinor. Zamru Ladonai Bechinor. Bechinor Bekol Zimra. B'chatzotzrot Bekol Shofar. Ariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, Yiram hayam umlo, Tevel v'yoshveva, Meharot imchalcha, Abrachat harim yiraneinu, Lifnei Adonai kiva. לשפוט הארץ, לשפוט תבל וצדק, רבים במישרים, ירם הים ומלואו, תבל ויושביה, נהרות ימלאו Harim Yiraneinu, Yachad Harim Yiraneinu. Page 19, offering these words, Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain. One of the things that gives us strength, that gives us that oz, enables us to receive it, is just thinking about the brachot, just thinking about the blessings, having a gratitude practice. inviting anyone to put into the Zoom chat, or maybe to just share with someone sitting next to you. It's hard with the masks to hear projected voices, but so what's a blessing that this year has brought? 2022, 21. Before we dash into the next number, just think, what has given you strength? What's a blessing, a joy, a source of nachas, of goodness? Whisper it in your heart, put it in the Zoom chat, say it aloud to someone. Adonai hoz le'amo yiteh, Adonai hoz le'amo yiteh, Adonai hoz le'amo yiteh, Adonai yivarech et amo, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom, v'shalom. Adonai hoz le'amo yiteh, Adonai hoz le'amo yiteh, Adonai yivarech et amo. As I think about the blessings of this past year, I just think of the incredible ability of our community to find ways to be there for each other, to give to each other, to be flexible and not just in a yoga way, to find ways to enable to continue to be a community through whatever changes come our way. Phil, you can just put it in the front pew. Thank you. L'chadodi on page 20. L'chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Yishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shem tiferet v'lid hira l'chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela L'chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 2. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki makor habracha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava tchila l'chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela l'chadodi likrat kala b'nei Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Hit'oreri, hit'oreri, ki ba'oref kumi ori, uri, uri, shir daberi. Kevod Adonai alaych nigla, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Rising in body or in spirit, we turn our faces and spirits to face the door of our home, of our sanctuary, inviting in the energy, the sweetness, the renewal of Shabbat. Boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzola, toch emunei segura. Boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Shalom Alechem is on 24, and I'm thinking of the messengers that encircle us, that are around us, whether it's Jason making the tech work, or those healthcare providers pushing through exhaustion to be there yet again, or those fighting the devastating wildfires in Colorado. So many angels protecting, working. Let's acknowledge them. 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Akadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Akadosh Baruch Hu. Bachuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei with that line, Seitchem l'shalom. When I was in rabbinical school, I decided I wanted to get really good at storytelling. There is storytelling too, but storytelling. And I studied with Penina Shram, who's a master storyteller. I would go to her apartment on the Upper West Side, and I'll never forget it. Sometimes people teach you with their tiny gestures. She would always walk me to the door and wait till the elevator came. And not until the doors closed would she walk away. And just thinking about that accompanying to the goodbye. It's such rich Torah in whatever way you want to take it. But that simple gesture, for her, it was a mitzvah to take me to the door or to the elevator, as the case may be. Tzeitchem l'shalom. Baruch Hu is on 28. We rise in body or spirit. Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Thinking of those twilights in our lives. We feel that especially on the cusp of a secular new year. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim 32. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael. May be seated 36. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, Adonai Elohechem emet. Before you turn the page, just looking at that third line of the Hebrew, first word, me'odecha. When we're doing the sign language for v'ahavta, I'll often go like this. Me'odecha really literally means with all your might. You know, love God with all your might. But actually, one interpretation means love God with all your money, with all your means. And I'm remembering it was a December break years ago, but I was a young adult, starting to think about the weight of a paycheck and a donation. And I noticed I was visiting my dad and stepmom, and on their table, it was late December, were splayed out all the envelopes of all the causes, right? This is the time. With the pleas getting more and more urgent all day, my inbox was like, and I said to them, so how much do you give and to whom? And it was like looking at the anatomy of their being, of their values. It's a powerful idea that we have to love God with our intellect, with our heart, with our faith, with our relationships, and with the tzedakah that we are able to give. Mi Chamocha is on page 40. And before we lead into Mi Chamocha, it feels appropriate to offer a very brief quote by Desmond Tutu. What a figure, what a luminary. South African Anglican bishop, theologian, anti-apartheid activist. And I think these thoughts are poignant as we hold them up to Mi Chamocha, our prayer for freedom. Tutu said, "Forgiving is not forgetting. It's actually remembering. Remembering and then not using your right to hit back. It's a second chance for a new beginning. And the remembering part is particularly important, especially if you don't want to repeat what happened." 40. Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha, Ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha, Nedar B'Kodesh, Nora Tehilot, Oseh Melech, Nora Tehilot, Oseh Hashkivenu 42. Asking for rest and peace, safety. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom Ve'hamidenu shomreinu Shomreinu lechayim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom Ve'hamidenu shomreinu Shomreinu lechayim Ufros aleinu Sukat shlomecha Ufros aleinu Sukat shlomecha Baruch atah Adonai Hapores Sukat Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru. We speak about the covenant that is Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, that exists between God and the entire Jewish people. We'll be thinking of that a little bit more at Torah study tomorrow. Spoiler alert, join us at 9:15. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. בששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Rising physically or in our spirit, however we're able to, we are on page 46, the Amidah. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. 48. Baruch אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. 50. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומקיים ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. 52. אתה קדוש בשמך קדוש, אתה קדוש בשמך קדוש, וקדושים וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע, ברוך אתה אדוני, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש, האל הקדוש. Continuing in our own way and at our own pace, seated or standing, the meditations in the Siddur, or those prayers inside of your own heart. We'll meet up again on page 62 in just a few moments. Please continue your prayers if you're praying. Shalom Raham al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Raham al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom, ki ata hu melech וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב הישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב הישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. Moving now to our prayers for healing. 253, the Misha Berach can be found there, encouraging you to speak those names aloud if you are at home, to add them to the Zoom chat, or to say them aloud in this space as I scan the room. I'm sorry I can't come closer, but I'm with you. I'm collecting those names. Hashem knew what you meant. Yakara, 253. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lehavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say So we are now turning it over to Mayor. This is such a weird feeling because I am always the, I feel like the universe has sort of skipped on its axis, so it's lovely not to be the one on the screen. Over to you, Mayor. You ready, Jason? Awesome.
Shabbat Shalom and Happy New Year, dear Temple Beth-El family. Happy New Year's Eve. I want to begin tonight by focusing on one particular New Year's Eve. It wasn't in this century and it wasn't on this continent, neither North America or in Israel. The specific New Year's I'm thinking about was exactly 90 years ago. The year was 1931 to 32. Forgive me for mixing my holidays, but on that particular New Year's Eve, it was also the 8th night of Hanukkah. The place was Kiel, Germany. The people were Rachel and Akiva Posner, Rabbi Akiva Posner. And some of you may well have seen this before, may have seen this image before. As Rachel Posner looked out the window on that 8th night, New Year's Eve, December 31st, she could see, we can see the menorah in the foreground, and in the background, the horrific Nazi flag with that gross swastika hanging in the main headquarters of the Nazi party in Kiel, Germany. Rachel Posner had the idea to take a picture of this image. And after Hanukkah, or after the night, this particular date, December 31st, she developed the film. And on the back side, the reverse side of the photograph, she wrote this: Judah will die, thus says the flag, and Judah will live, thus say these lights. So tonight is not a night about the Nazis or even about Hanukkah, but as in 1931-2, it is about New Year's Eve. So I ask, starting with that photograph of the New Year's Eve night, what is the meaning of a secular New Year? Why is it so special or important? For me, the Hanukkah and New Year's Eve exactly 90 years ago evokes two themes: lights and beginnings. And of course, Torah, Genesis has so much beautiful insight about the combination of lights and beginnings. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then we read, God said, open quote, let there be light, close quote, and there was light. So beginnings and light. And our sages teach us that in the beginning, it's not just that God created et hashamayim v'et haaretz, the heavens and the earth. Rather, God first created et, bereshit bara Elohim et, aleph to tav, A to Z. The building blocks of life, the basic ingredients of human connection and communication. That was the first creation, so say our sages. And immediately after creating the heavens and the earth, those sages point out yet again the exact same message. God's next creation is or, light. And again by aleph to tav, by speech, language. God said, open quote, let there be light, and close quote, there was light. Creation happened through speech, A to Z. God created light through speech, and so do we, or not. We've talked about this many times. So every New Year's, Hanukkah or not, and every new beginning is a moment of speech. Speech is absolutely central to every creation, every new journey, new idea, new endeavor. The seemingly supernatural power of speech connects on this Shabbat of New Year's Eve to two very interesting people, both of whom were named Eliezer. One of them was Eliezer Ludwig Zamenhof, whose birthday was just 2 weeks ago, December 15. The other famous Eliezer is Eliezer ben Yehuda, whose yortzeit is December 16, and his birthday is this coming week in a few days, January 7. These two men have many things in common in addition to their name, Eliezer. First, they're born very close to each other geographically, one in Vilna, the other Bialystok, about 220 kilometers apart. Second, they were born almost within the same year, 1858 and 59. Third, they're both Jewish. Fourth, they both loved language. And finally, fifth, each of them devoted their lives to creating or recreating a vibrant, living, pulsating language. They completely understood what the opening verse of Genesis teaches, that A to Z, Bereshit bara Elohim et, aleph to tav, that the letters of the language constitute the building blocks of life, of love, of every society. Eliezer Zamenhof was the creator of the language called Maybe many of you, some of you know Esperanto. I'm curious how many of us might actually know how to speak, even a little bit, Esperanto. But Zamenhof believed deeply that if humanity could communicate in one language, that would lead to world peace. Now, actually, Parsha Noach, the story of the Migdal Bavel, Tower of Babel, disagrees with this idea, but not the intention, not the aspiration behind it. So Eliezer Zamenhof wrote this in 1895, I quote, "The place where I was born and spent my childhood gave direction to all my future struggles. In Bialystok, the inhabitants were divided into 4 elements: Russians, Poles, Germans, and Jews, and each of these spoke their own language and looked on all the others as enemies. I was brought up as an idealist. I was taught inside my home that all of us are brothers. But outside in the street, at every step, I felt that there were no brothers, only Russians and Poles and Germans and Jews and so on. And this was always a great torment to my infant mind." Although Esperanto has seen something of a resurgence of late, Eliezer Zamenhof's dream of a universal language mostly hasn't happened. And in fact, we probably know that many languages have come and gone throughout history. Latin, Sanskrit, Coptic, Akkadian are some of the most well-known to have their rise and eventual demise. Experts in language today report that there are almost 600 languages that have died off. And these experts worry that every 14 seconds, somehow they figured this out or project this, another language passes on. Lyle Campbell, a linguist at the University of Hawaii, said, "When people are giving up their languages, it's not choice, but oppression." And that's something we should all care about. When a language dies, it takes a lot of knowledge with it. It's not choice. And then there's the question of the revival of language. Languages that have come back to life. Professor and Dr. Lenore Grenoble is an American linguist specializing in Slavic and Arctic indigenous languages. Currently, she's the John Matthews Manley Distinguished Service Professor and the chair at the elite University of Chicago. In her book entitled Saving Languages, An Introduction to Language Revitalization, published by Cambridge University Press, Dr. Grenoble says this, I quote, "There has only been one successful instance of a complete language revival, that of the Hebrew language, creating a new generation of native speakers without any pre-existing native speakers as a model." So yes, Eliezer Zamenhof was the creator of Esperanto, but let me now remind you of the second Eliezer I want us to think about, Eliezer ben Yehuda, the modern recreator, the reviver, the Michaye of the modern Hebrew language. His birthday will be commemorated in a couple days, January 7th, and his Yortzeit was just 2 weeks ago. Ben Yehuda was stubbornly determined to bring the Sfat Eim, the mother tongue, the lingua franca of the Jewish people, back to life. Ben Yehuda was and is the driving reason for, quote, the one successful instance of a complete language revival, reiterating the words of Professor Grenoble. Eliezer ben Yehuda believed that reviving the Hebrew language was a fundamental priority for us, the Jewish people. Born in Vilna, ben Yehuda said this, quote, "There are 2 things without which the Jewish people cannot be a nation: a land and a language." It's clear that both of these Eliezers understood and believed what the Torah is teaching. At the heart of every new beginning is language. I want now to connect our 2 Eliezers even more closely, and I want to identify the essential ingredient of language that relates to New Year's Eve. In a class about the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad Lubavitch, whose Yortzeit was just 2 days ago, the 24th of Tevet, Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson taught something beautiful. We're in the book of Exodus, Parsha Vayera, and God sees the suffering of the Israelites. We're in the depths of slavery. We need miracles in order to survive. The Midrash teaches a secret about surviving 290 years of Egyptian slavery. The Jewish people never gave up our language. We never rejected Hebrew. We never adopted Egyptian or Arabic or Coptic. It's as if the Midrash 1,600 years ago anticipated Eliezer Zamenhof and even more, Eliezer ben Yehuda. The Midrash knew that Hebrew might one day be the only, quote, successful instance of a complete language revival. I learned this week that Esperanto, the name Zamenhof chose for his universal language, the very word means one who hopes, one who hopes. For both of our Eliezers, their hopes had the dimensions of the entire cosmos. The heavens and the earth could be moved, even created by our words. That was what the two of them believed. So on this eve of a new year, I say this: every aleph or bet, every letter we learn, every word we can decipher, every vowel sound we can master is a sign of hope and a seed of redemption. From aleph to taf, our love of learning a new word, a new binyan, construction, a shoresh, the three-letter root, is at its core a manifestation of our hope. Of course, there are so many more seeds and roots of hope. My point is, the new year is a time to focus on hope. What are the sources of hope in your life, in our lives? How can we nurture them? Rabbi YY shared a story about the Lubavitch Rebbe 230 years ago that eventually is the story of hope. It's beautiful to remember the Alter Rebbe this particular Shabbat, as his yortzeit, as I said, was just 2 days ago. The Alter Rebbe was thrown in jail by the Romanov Tsar in the late 1700s. He was falsely accused, multiple times actually, by Jews, of committing acts against the Tsar and his family. Words, remember, false words, sent the Rebbe to jail. But all of his writings indicate that he never lost his hope, his faith. And not only is his yortzeit 2 days ago, the day he was freed from jail was just a week ago, that being the 19th of Tevet in the year 1798. So here we are 223 years later. The Tsarist Romanov efforts are no longer, but the work of the Lubavitch Rebbe is thriving. According to Rabbi YY, this past year there were menorahs lit in 82 countries and in all 50 US states. There were close to 45,000 public Hanukkah menorah lightings this past holiday. So thank you, Eliezer Zamenhof, for the courage to try and the wisdom to know that language can create light and goodness in our lives. Thank you, Eliezer ben Yehuda, for the hope that's nourished every day by the Hebrew language, from Toronto to Tulsa, Paris to Philadelphia, Budapest to Buffalo, from Israel's highest peak, Mount Meron, to lowest spot of the Dead Sea. The letters and words of Hebrew are sparks of light, rays of hope. And thank you, Alter Rebbe, from the Ukraine to the United States. For secular and religious Jews all over the world, these lights are like creation all over again every year. The lights of the Hanukkah menorah are the rays of hope that we should nurture every New Year's Eve. It's true, there are so many reasons to lag in our hope, to feel ambivalent, to doubt that things will change, get better, improve. It's pretty easy these days to worry if life will ever be normal again. COVID, the environment, democracy, freedom, responsibility. Oy. But I believe that the new year is fundamentally about hope. Celebrating this night should always help us feel more expansive, more grateful, more loving, and more generous. I suspect if you could look up hope in the New Year's Eve recipe book, those are surely the top ingredients. Gratitude, loving kindness, and generosity. Creation, new beginnings, they are expressions of hope. Every new child is nothing if not that. We simply don't create without a sense of hope about what we can bring into the future. When we lose our hope, when it's gone, we've reached our end, or we're very close. Let's conclude by returning to our opening story. Exactly 90 years ago, New Year's Eve, 1931-2. Rachel and Akiva Posner, with a menorah in the windowsill and a Nazi flag in the background. Remember Rachel Posner's words: Judah will die, thus says the flag. Judah will live, thus say these lights. The Hanukkah lights have prevailed. That flag, although not completely dead, is rejected by most of the legitimate powers in the world. But our lights of Hanukkah, of Shabbat, of almost every Jewish moment, they are alive. Our lights are the expression of and the source of our hope. They tell the world that we're filled with hope and confidence and determination. They tell us, they remind us, we remind ourselves that there is so much to do. And as always, the best place to start is at home. Shabbat Shalom and Happy New Year.
Let's rise for Aleinu. We're on 282. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת זו בגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. 287. ונאמן והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו may be seated as I retrieve the Morris Kaddish. So if you hear the name of someone you've come to remember, you can rise. When you hear that name, we of course encourage you to add any names virtually over the Zoom chat, or just simply to say them aloud wherever you are, and make their memories come alive. So we are thinking of those who have died in the last 30 days in the period of Shloshim: Martin Silver and Michael Weintraub, and all those whose yortzites fall this week: Joseph Feldman, Frank Gelder, Rose Goldberg, George S. Goldberg, Harrison Spencer, Weiss Horowitz, Sylvia Jacobson, Matilda Levin, Mitchell Rosenson, J.P. Stevens, Arthur Susswine, Nettie Silverstein, Dorothy Steinberg, Jerry Tillis, Maisie Plain Yadlovker, Edna Zale, Arlene Zucker, and any other name. And if it's your custom to rise for the Mourner's Kaddish, please do so. We're on 294. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ביעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחי אחון וביום אחון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בזמן קריב יאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ברכו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תאמירן ויעלמה ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו amen. May the one who creates harmony and peace and healing on high bring that to all of us, to all humankind, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. And we say one last time, amen. You may be seated. So before we conclude with Kiddush and Motzi, a reminder that everything is virtual tomorrow, Torah study and our lay-led morning service. This Wednesday, January 6th, Rosh Chodesh Sisterhood. It's open to all the women in the community. Please join. 7 p.m. We'll be thinking about, it's 7, right, Jen? Not 7:30? I can't remember. I'll read the email. We'll be thinking about the artistic construction of a Kriya quilt, the pieces of our lives woven together into a new tapestry. Sunday, January 9th, Tom Swazi will be speaking. We will figure out those exactly how and all of that as the time gets closer, but that's at 11 a.m. My next adult ed on race and civil rights will be talking about the book So You Want to Talk About Race. That is on January 11th. January 13th, Om, occasional midday music and meditation with Cantor Adam, 2 p.m. And Global Jewish Grooves that evening with the Cantor at 7:30. Tu B'Shvat Havdalah Yoga Book Launch Experience on Saturday evening. That will be virtual, January 15th. And don't forget about the history discussion group, Wednesdays at 1 p.m. You can contact Ed Joseph about that. Thank you, Phil, for always stepping up as our usher, and to the Goodmans and the Aronsons for kindling the lights tonight. And our bakers will be back, and you'll have a real cantor next Shabbat. so nice for Adam to get some much-deserved time away to be with family. Okay, so now it is my joy to call up Howard Herman. He celebrated a birthday this week, but it is also the 60th anniversary of his bar mitzvah, Vayera. And I don't know, is the picture up on the screen? I can't. Yeah, Jason, you're the best. So look at it. It's the same punim. I love it. So if you can rise, that would be great, or if not physically, do so in spirit. Sorry, I didn't pour it yet. We are on page 5, Kiddush. There is a working mic there. And it's amazing to think of the multiple ways in which you have, we always say, Howard, to our B'nai Mitzvah, it's just a beginning, I looked up the gematria for 60. Of course, there's tons of Hebrew words that have the 60 numerology, but one of them is machazeh, which means vision or window. And your sense of rootedness and loyalty and integrity creates a vision for us in so many ways. So, mazel tov.
Thank you. I'm going to stand
Yeah, yes,
Here.
stand,
Just
there
in-
you go.
Just in case my children or grandchildren might be watching.
Is the green? Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's on.
Can you hear me? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch
Baruch
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom tehila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. If you don't mind, in honor of COVID.
Exactly. We said l'chaim, so good reason not to sip.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
And those have been covered and not at all breathed upon, so, but no pressure, whatever you want to do. Okay, we, just a reminder to take your Siddur out with you. Thank you so much, Shai. So much fun to sing with you. And we are going to conclude with a Don Olam to an ancient Jewish tune, 321. Adon Olam Hashem Alav B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'ed Nasa B'chefto Kol Azay Malach Shemo Nigra Ve'acharei Kichot HaKol Levado Yimlo only two more verses. Vehu Eli v'chai gohali v'tzochev li b'hitzara lehu nisi umados li menat kosi b'yom egra b'yado aki bruchi b'et ishan v'ha'ira Wishing you a new year of health and hope and meaning and community. Shabbat Shalom. I was turning